We are so happy you are here today. We are happy that you're able. So today, if you're on the call, our webinar is around growing network and impact, recruitment of pilgrims and next steps. So really today, we're going to deep dive into what are some of the core aspects and further engaging people as we know that ultimately pilgrimages are an opportunity for encounter. And so, as we get started, if you want to welcome yourselves in the chat, your name, your location, as we get started. But today, we're really going to talk about how do we take the encounter and create the experience after the encounter. So, to go ahead and get started today, Josh is going to start us off in prayer.
All right, let's just take a moment now and just be open to God's presence. It's with us, around us. We recognize that Pope Francis calls caring for creation the vocation of every Christian. So we trust that God has called each of us here today to empower our vocation, to give us joy, encouragement, and to meet others along the way. So in this moment, let's just welcome God into our presence and praise God for all of the wonderful creation. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And I'll pray here from Pope Francis's own words. All powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty and not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey toward your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each day and today. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Josh, for that prayer. And so, as we go ahead and get started today, I'm going to introduce our speakers that we have that are going to be sharing all their wonderful knowledge and their information and experience with us. So, first we have Catherine, who serves as the program coordinator of the National Association of Catholic Social Action and Mission. She also serves as the pastoral associate at Lumen Christi Parish in Mingo, Wisconsin. Oh my goodness, I do not know that thing. And she is
Milwaukee. That's
located
right.
Milwaukee. Okay, thank you. I was like, and she's located in the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. Josh, who just shared our prayer, is the director of the Office of Peace and Justice for Catholic Diocese of Lexington, Kentucky. In this capacity, he coordinates the Laudato Si action plan that I'm sure many of you guys may be familiar with, and also as well as the Net Zero Initiative. So the Diocese of Lexington serves 50 counties in the eastern and central Kentucky, and 40 out of the 50 countries are in the Appalachian region. We also have Kat Doyle joining us today. She's the Director of Justice and Peace Ministries in the Archdiocese of Atlanta, which supports more than 1.3 million parishioners in North and Central Georgia. She also leads the Laudato Si initiative and oversees creation care and sustainability efforts in the Archdiocese. We also have Annie Fox, who I'm sure you are familiar from plenty of our other webinars, who is the Provincial Assistant for Justice and Ecology Organizing at Jesuits West and also has an extensive organizing experience. And these are all our panelists who are joining us today. So I will hand it over to Catherine.
Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Just to give a little bit of background on today's webinar, the National Association of Catholic Social Action and Mission serves diocesan directors in a variety of settings. And members of the planning team from the Laudato Si movement had asked if we would be willing to pull together a small team of individuals who have been engaged in the work and implementation of Laudato Si. Obviously, all of us are engaged in this webinar in particular because many of us are planning pilgrimages of hope for creation. But the work of Laudato Si is beyond any one event, and it requires key strategies and information, one-on-ones, community organizing tactics to be able to build a network and to continue the momentum of a movement. So at this time, I'm actually going to turn it over to Annie, who's going to give us some of those strategies and key points, and from there, I will be able, excuse me, be able to speak a little bit from our my own parish experience, as well as Josh, who will be following with a diocesan perspective from his work in the Diocese of Lexington. And then finally, Kat will round us out with some of the ongoing work that she has been doing in her archdiocese with various other community organizations. So, Annie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm delighted to be with all of you this morning. And I want to spend the morning talking about rivers. I think rivers and waterfalls are a really great grounding to think about our work. The book of Ezekiel for me is sometimes a really terrifying book. It's kind of depressing. It's a book of the people of God in exile and longing, but it ends with this beautiful prophecy of the world being restored by a river of life that has the power to bring God's glory back to the world. And I sometimes think of our work as people working for justice as trying to be the river. Pete Seeger is famous for saying, drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. And I think of us as being individual drops of water that alone feel really powerless, but together can build power to do great things and to be God's river of life. So today I want to talk a little bit about the elements of a river and what makes a river powerful. If you think about a river, and I live in the Northwest with some of you, so I get to spend a lot of time staring at waterfalls. The thing that makes a water so powerful it can shape rock, it takes getting a lot of water aligned, and it takes momentum. It takes gravity pushing water down. And I think that this is actually a really great metaphor for organized people being able to do God's work, that we can only be powerful enough that we can shape rock or turn a mill when we are aligned by being in strong relationship and when we have momentum, kind of capturing the excitement of our events. And so we know the pilgrimages are going to be a big, exciting event, we hope. And so we're going to talk today about how do we prepare for those pilgrimages by actually doing the outreach to make sure we get lots of people there. And then how do we capture the momentum of those pilgrimages, as Catherine said, to keep our committees going and keep this work going for the long term. So let's start by digging in on alignment. How do we build relationships to kind of align our people to support this event? So one thing I just want to name is that this actually is reflected in studies of how social movements work. Social movements again and again and again show that the two key things that keep people wanting to come to things is that they come there actually not because they care about the issue, they care about the relationships. And actually, one of the best studies of this was of the pro-life movement, of which the Catholic Church is such a big contributor, that people in the pro-life movement and other movements have self-reported that when they got involved in a movement, they didn't know that much about the issue, but a friend asked. And at the meetings, they found connection, they found shared prayer, they found relationship, they found friendship. So we want to think about how are we building relationship into everything we're doing? And then also that they got empowerment, that they weren't just asked to put out chairs or do boring tasks, but they had a sense that what they were doing mattered. They had a clear goal that they met. There was a sense of excitement and success. It felt like that was seen and that they personally contributed to it in a meaningful way, using their talents, and they felt proud of what they did. Okay, So let's dig in and talking about alignment and how we actually make this work. It's simple. We just need to build relationships. In some ways, that seems really obvious, but I do think we need to spend some time thinking about what that means. And that also means that we need to start just by understanding the relationships that exist in our institution. Most of you are trying to organize pilgrimages through a parish or maybe a school, maybe through a diocese. And I want to encourage you to sit down and really think about how relationships exist in your parish or your institution. And I want to be very clear, this is not mapping who's more valuable or more important in your institution. We are all important and valuable because we are children of God. But some people have more decision-making power in our institutions. That's just because of their authority or the way our institutions are structured. Some people are newer to a community. Some people just attend less often, and maybe they're part of your justice committee, but they never actually go to mass, so they don't meet people. So I do want to encourage you to think about your institution and think about who is very supportive of your agenda. You can see I've created this x-axis where more to the left, I've said people against my agenda. And my agenda in this case is really being vocal and care for creation. And then to the right, people who are very supportive. And obviously, ideally, we would get most people up in that upper right-hand corner. That's when we know we can be really successful. But in thinking about planning for pilgrimages, you'll see that on the y-axis, I figured out I'm laying out kind of at the very top, I'm putting the final decision maker, often a bishop or a pastor at a school, maybe a principal. But then who are the people below them that really influence their decisions? And the thing I want to name is that obviously we want to spend time going to the people who are both influential and excited about our work. And we want to ask them to promote our pilgrimages, to support our work, to recruit people to come. But I also want to encourage you to think about the people who are kind of in the middle, who maybe they are dubious about this whole climate change thing, but they are worried about pollution in our communities, or they are worried about the fires that have been happening. Maybe the head of your RCIA or your catechism, who they support your justice work, but they don't normally come to things because they don't have time. What are the things that you could engage them in to say, this is a really important event? Could you get involved? Or can we talk about what's happening with asthma rates in our community and with our catechism kids? Because I really want to talk to you about this pilgrimage. The other thing you want to think about, and to kind of move those people into being more actively supportive. The other thing you want to think about is the people who are maybe very supportive of your agenda, but who aren't that connected in the community, who, again, maybe they only come to the Justice Commission meetings, but they don't actually go to Mass, or they're very new. What can you do to help them become more known in the community? How can you help them become influencers, as we would say in social media? If you know the person who's head of RCIA, can you bring one of your new activists to be in relationship with that person so that you are kind of moving up the influence of your committee and helping them, frankly, build power in your institution so they can be better advocates for your work? Because it is fundamentally about relationships. And I really, if there's nothing else you take from this session, I want to encourage you that promoting these pilgrimages is going to be less about emailing and passing out flyers en masse, and much more about going to the head of your RCIA, the head of your catechism, the head of your Knights of Columbus, and having a conversation. And what's essential is that it's not a conversation where you are lecturing or selling to them why these pilgrimages are important. It's a conversation where you're asking them what they think is at stake in this moment with protecting creation. And again, I really want to be careful about how we're thinking about our lingo. We're not going and asking them, like, what do you think about our carbon footprint? Or what do you think about our CO2 emissions as a country? You're going and asking them, how do you feel about what's going in our community with the recent natural disasters that happened? How do you feel about the future of these heat in the Southwest for our children? How do you feel about what's happening with pollution in our city or about this natural disaster that happened recently? Asking them to share a story about why you care about this work, and people are generally naturally going to respond with their own stories about what they see happening in the community. Some of you have heard me talk about hosting an event that we had to evacuate in California because of forest fires, and how frightened I was and how frightening it is to live in a world where I have to be in charge of saving people's lives due to forest fires. And I tell that story, and then people generally kind of naturally like tell me about their fears around what's happening with our climate and our communities. We share about what's going on with us, and then we think together about what it's going to take. And you at that point share about why you think these pilgrimages are important, why you think Christ and this moment with the church is calling you to take action. And you hope to listen to hear how they're being called in this moment. And these are conversations where you're starting with a story from yourself, but really you're hoping to do listening and understand what they care about. You might also ask them about a saint that inspires them and connects them to their relationship with creation. I was recently talking to somebody about the Vietnamese martyrs, which are an important figure here in Seattle, and realizing that the connection to the jungle and the sense of safety and God protecting people in the jungle was really important, which is something I'd never thought about. And I started to think about, oh, how could we incorporate them into the pilgrimages we're doing here in Seattle? So again, I just want to emphasize most people come for the relationships. And even if they came because they happen to care about the issue, the ability to get people to stay in the work is about the quality of your relationships. Are you singing? Are you sharing personally? Are you praying together? And again, it's also just what Christ called us to do, right? As people of God, we are called to build the church. We are called to spread the good news. We are called to be in relationship. Okay, so let's move on to momentum. How do we build some excitement around these pilgrimages? And how do we capture the excitement to be able to power our mill to keep the work going? So, one is thinking about leadership, not just going to people in your institution and asking them if they will support your work, but having them think about how they and the people that they're interested in getting engaged. And often your people are thinking about their group of high school students, their group of parents, their group of their Knights of Columbus that are struggling, that they want to get more involved. What are ways that they could help lead in your pilgrimages, not just promote? So that's things like, could the catechism students do an art project? Can they have a role? We have youth on this call who are taking a big lead on pilgrimages in California. What are the ways that they can engage their students meaningfully? Maybe they do the opening prayer. Can people from your liturgy team write a prayer, do something creative, not just have a prayer that you wrote or from the Laudato Si book that they're going to read, but something where they're really contributing in a meaningful way? And also, people don't have to contribute just at the pilgrimage. Maybe you have a deacon or a priest or a bishop who could do a commissioning prayer for the pilgrims during Mass, but that at least gets them more connected to the sense of pilgrimage. Even if they don't come, they may be more interested in hearing about it after, maybe more interested in featuring you in their newsletter. We just want to have people be in relationship with the event. And then I was also sort of thinking like Knights of Columbus are always my big get. How can I get the Knights of Columbus to want to be involved in this? And I don't know about your Knights of Columbus, but in parishes I've worked with, they tend to be attracted to roles where they're getting to protect or help people feel connected to practical things. And so I was thinking about like, we're going to need marshals. I would love to recruit my Knights of Columbus to be marshals. Or again, I'm thinking a lot about ones here on the West Coast where we're thinking a lot about fires and drought. What would it look like to spend 5 or 10 minutes on our pilgrimage talking about climate resilience? And I think actually there's some Knights of Columbus who would love to share about natural disaster readiness. We have some Knights of Columbus who have created fire preparedness toolkits, and to let them spend 10 minutes sharing about that, which actually would be a really great way to build bridges, because we also sometimes have some of our biggest doubters in that community. And we'd love to get them more involved in talking about our shared values around nature. Maybe inviting somebody who has a real pride and joy in hunting and being in creation to talk about why creation is important to them. And again, just thinking about what are all the things that you were planning on doing that you could ask somebody else to do. And especially if they are tasks that are creative and meaningful and not just things like typing up data or putting out chairs. Do you need somebody to do childcare? Do you need somebody to make art? So think about all the tasks that you want to do, and then think about which ones could you give away to other people that you feel like you don't need to be in charge of. And I took this template from Paul Campion, a really well-known organizer for a climate group called Sunrise, which some of you may have heard of. So then the last thing I want to talk about very quickly is, okay, we've done all this stuff to prepare to have a great pilgrimage. How do we then capture the momentum from that pilgrimage? I don't know how many of you know the feeling I have of you've spent 6 months preparing for an event, you got 400 people there, it was amazing, and then you try and go sleep for a week, and then you realize like, oh shoot, I should have sent a follow-up email. How do we actually like think about how we capture the like interest in this event? And it's too late, frankly, after I've slept for a week because I needed a break. We really need to prepare ahead of time to capture that momentum. So, how do we do that? You write a follow-up email for the event. You write it before the event happens. You do not take a break for 4 days and then send the email 4 days later. People have sadly forgotten about your event. They forgot how they felt. They forgot how exciting it is. You write the email beforehand. You schedule it. You get some young catechism student who knows how to schedule an email and you send it later that day or the next day. Do not let more than 48 hours pass before you send that follow-up email. You can only send that email if you actually captured the names and emails of people who came to your event. I'm going to ask all of you to raise your right hand. I want you to say to yourself, I solemnly swear that I will have a sign-in sheet at my pilgrimage or pre-registration, and that I will assign someone ahead of time to type up that sign-in sheet and get it into my email listserv. I am not going to spend 6 months preparing for an event, then have 200 people come and never be able to contact them before. I will have sign-in sheets. I will have somebody assigned to distribute those sign-in sheets, either a table or somebody walking around with clipboards. And we will put them in our online system. We will not lose them in the back of our car. Have a clear invitation and next step planned. People who are at this pilgrimage are going to be excited. Hopefully, they had a spiritual moment. Ideally, it was a moment of conversion. What is the next thing you're inviting them to? I know it seems hard to think about the next thing when you're already overwhelmed with your pilgrimage, but even if it's just a follow-up meeting, maybe it's just a celebration of the pilgrimage and you're going to have a pizza party. But for people who come and felt excited, you need to know already what is the next thing they can do. It should probably be something about a month, 2 weeks to a month after your pilgrimage that they can get involved in. Maybe it's just a Zoom celebration, something really easy, but you want to have it now. You want to have that date ready at the pilgrimage. Ideally, you have a QR code or a place where people can sign up at the pilgrimage for that next step. A really easy way to do that is pledge cards. Maybe during the pilgrimage, you distribute pledge cards for people to take a next step. I sometimes think of these as covenant cards. We're creating a covenant to live into Laudato Si. And then also, we want these events celebrated. We're going to do our next training call about media, but the most important media is your parish and your diocese and your local Catholic community. And often those people just need somebody to write the article. So make sure you have someone assigned to take photos, but make sure you have somebody ahead of time who's thinking about writing this up, getting it sent into the Catholic Climate Covenant or Laudato Si movement, getting it posted to Facebook. If a tree falls in the nobody hears it, but I know if you do a pilgrimage and nobody sees it, they don't get converted. We want to make sure you see it, and that's about you recording it so we can amplify it and distribute it. Lastly, and most importantly, and I think this is what our speaker is going to talk about, have a plan to identify new leaders who seem excited about this. Make sure your planning team has a debrief, again, pre-scheduled, where you can talk about, hey, here are the 5 or 6 leaders who I never thought our catechism teacher would care about this. Who knew that our Knights of Columbus was a big Sierra Club supporter? We are going to have a meeting and talk about going back and doing more one-to-ones with those people to get them more invested. And that also just means can you have a greeter? Can you have somebody who's in charge of taking questions at the end so people can come up to you and say, hey, I'd love to get more involved. Pre-think these things will make your follow-up much easier. And that's my time.
Okay, so thank you so much, Annie. I am, if you bear with me for 1 second, going to pull up my slides. Can everybody see these? Hold on. Can somebody say yes because I'm on my yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. Hold, please. 1 second. It's always fun when I have a slightly different setup. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, I think I'm getting it now.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, we
good.
can see it.
There
Yep.
we go. Okay, let's just pull it up into full screen instead of all the crazy notes. Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you for the verbal affirmation of that. Okay, so like Elisa said, my name is Catherine Zerngable, and I serve as the program coordinator, excuse me, for the National Association of Catholic Social Action and Mission. It is a small national Catholic organization that supports individuals like Josh and Kat who work in diocesan offices, promoting Catholic social teaching. My day job, however, is I am the pastoral associate of Lumen Christi Parish, which is a suburban parish in Mequon, Wisconsin, which is located about 15 minutes north of the city of Milwaukee in Wisconsin, within the larger Archdiocese of Milwaukee. And really, for my time today, which I'm going to start a stopwatch, so in the next like 6 or 7 minutes, I'm going to do just a brief overview of how our parish has really tried to implement Laudato Si and care for creation. And the three key points that I'd love for each of you to take away from my time is an emphasis on Catholic identity, an overview of most parish structures, and then persistence. So, our parish, I'm just going to give a couple of stories here in the next few minutes about how we've really tried to implement Laudato Si in our corner of southeastern Wisconsin. And it really began about 4 years ago. Like many of you have probably experienced this in your parish or diocese. I had one or two people come up to me and ask me, what are we doing about the Pope's encyclical? And in that moment, I said, what would you like to do about implementing Laudato Si in the parish? And that sparked a larger conversation between two very invested and caring individuals, one of whom served on my parish Human Concerns Commission, of which I serve as the pastor, or I serve as the staff liaison, excuse me. And really, it snowballed into a 2 hour conversation about their love for the natural environment around the parish, as well as a care for the poor also within our larger parish demographics or parish geographical area and in our Ozaukee County. If any of you are from Milwaukee or from the Archdiocese, southeastern Wisconsin, you know Ozaukee County is one of the more affluent counties in the state. The greater Mequon-Thiensville area is a suburban area, also an affluent area. But as we all know, that there are individuals who are struggling in our community, and how can we connect and see the interconnectedness of care for the poor as well as care for the environment in our own parish backyard? And beautifully, Pope Francis wrote about that within Laudato Si. So really, that was the driving force behind the work that we wanted to do and hoped to accomplish in our brainstorming of what we wanted to do in the next several years. But like many of you have probably also encountered, there were a lot of skeptics and doubts of why we wanted to pick this topic. Why did we want to look at caring for creation? Lots of conversations and hesitations around climate change, the science behind it. And while I don't want to get too far into the weeds, I did need to and want to name that was a challenge early on. And all of that then was really important for us in terms of why we are doing what we are doing. The Catholic identity is critical and is the underpinning of every single thing, every single project, every single program and effort that we do. While I'm not going to spend too much time on that because time is short, I did want to emphasize that everything that we do is rooted in scripture and tradition. All of our promotion everything from just a short bulletin blurb to a flyer, has a quote from Laudato Si, has a short quote from Scripture, has a short quote from any one of the papal documents that talk about this, to really identify that the work that we are doing is from our faith, and that is the starting point, no questions about it. So just to give a quick snapshot of our parish, like I mentioned, is in the greater Mequon-Thiensville area, just north of the city of Milwaukee. We have registered just under 2,400 families, which equates to about 6,100 individuals. We do have a school that has enrollment of 365 students, as well as a strong Catholic formation program with just over 800 children. So when I say that on an average weekend, we have thousands of people rolling through the parish grounds, that's not an exaggeration. We typically see anywhere from all of the Catholic formation students in the evenings. We also run our high school program runs in the evenings on Sundays, but all of the youth and middle school programming takes place in between our 9 a.m. and our 11 a.m. Mass at the school building. So if you are at the 9 a.m. Mass on Sundays and there is a mass exodus, a blessing of all of the kids right before the final announcements, and there's this mass exodus of children, they're heading over to formation at our school building, which is absolutely beautiful and wonderful to see. But our parish, Lumen Christi, it's a merged parish that was originally started between St. Cecilia Parish, located in Thiensville, that was established in the early 1900s, and then St. James Parish in Mequon was established in the mid 1800s. The schools, actually, there were two schools associated to those parishes, and they were merged in the mid 1980s, but the parishes itself didn't merge until 2005. So when I say that it has been years in the making to get these two communities to come together, also not an exaggeration. Many people, if you ask them now where, where are they from, they'll typically answer like, "Oh, I'm originally from St. Cecilia's," or "I'm originally from St. James." So it was really important for our community when we were coming together to anchor ourselves as one family, one community, which is a reflection of our parish vision, which is one family sharing the love and light of Christ. Now, this is not the most exciting slide in the world, but it's really important with my time remaining to highlight an org chart because I love org charts. And if you notice, I am the pastoral associate. I'm located on the end, and I oversee this is a very basic version, oversee a couple other areas, but communications and human concerns, which are pertinent to our conversation today. And underneath human concerns is the Care for Creation subcommittee. And I wanted to highlight this because it shows that each person, pastoral associate, director of liturgy and music, all the way down the line, those are individuals that are on staff at the parish. And for me, those are my go-to individuals when I need to collaborate, when I need to work together on a project. I know I need to have a conversation with every single one of those people before I talk to my associate pastor and before I talk to my pastor, who is my supervisor. But from the org chart, you can also see that natural silos occur. And it's really easy for each of us to stay in our lane and stay focused on what we're responsible for, but it then also doesn't lend itself to strong communication. So in the last minute I have here, I just wanted to highlight a couple of examples within our larger Care for Creation subcommittee. Over the years, we had really highlighted that there were two key points that we wanted to always make sure that we included. We wanted to make sure that everything we did was local and tangible and right in our own backyard so that we could point to something right in the greater Mequon-Thiensville area, larger Ozaukee County. We also had a strong commitment that we wanted to engage our youth, which includes not only the Catholic formation students, but also all of the school families as well. But we wanted to make sure that we took a both and approach. We know that we needed to take a look at the fact that we had limited resources from our own Care for Creation subcommittee. All of my volunteers, of which are about a dozen individuals that meet monthly, are engaged in a lot of other aspects as well. So, how could we bridge the gap to engage our youth in something local and tangible? One of the things that we did was we had a back field called the Northland, and it really wasn't developed. Over the last year and a half, we wanted to develop that land to create a prayer garden, some wildflower gardens. We want to have outdoor stations of the cross as well as a prayer labyrinth. All of which is a 5-year goal to build up to and incorporate into the land. We knew then that it was critical that we needed to get our buildings and grounds on board with that. So I started a conversation with our director of administrative services who oversees buildings and grounds. And we pulled together a small team from that area to say, how can we make this happen? Well, how can we engage our youth we decided to have an art contest and a naming contest of that. So with that, we needed to have a one-on-one and engage our director of Catholic formation and the school kids. All of which, I know I'm running out of time now, really reiterates that we needed to have multiple one-on-ones, and this was an ongoing conversation. And I know in my time, I'm not spending really any time on the Pilgrimages of Hope, but it's meant to say that all of this has been years in the making, and the Pilgrimages of Hope is one key aspect in the larger movement of implementing Laudato Si at our parish. Here we have, with the Pilgrimages of Hope, we have an event planned on the Feast of St. Francis, October 4th, that'll be taking place at the Catholic Ecology Center, which is about 30 minutes northwest of us. Within the larger Kettle Moraine State Forest. And then Concordia University, which it's a non-Catholic university, but we have a Newman Center there, and it's located right on Lake Michigan. And you'll see kind of this zigzag path. We're going to be offering 2 opportunities to have pilgrimages on October 4th. And the conversations needing to happen with the campus minister at Concordia, as well as our contact at the Catholic Ecology Center to bring individuals to those spaces, but then to also have what Amy talked about, those kind of next steps. Our goal and ultimately long range plan is to focus on building a middle school green team extracurricular program at our parish, all of which has been an uphill battle. This is my final point, just wanted to make. We really were hoping to launch this last year and completely did not happen. So I hope with the persistence of all of these little touch points throughout the year that we are able to build this in and launch this next year. All of this is meant to be able to connect those families who are engaging in the pilgrimages and some of these other larger efforts. This will not be the first time they're hearing about it. So I know that this is a lot of information, but please do not hesitate to contact me about how we're trying to implement Laudato Si at our small parish within southeastern Wisconsin. And like I said, if you want to take away the 3 key points, it is, again, root everything in Catholic identity, have a greater understanding of the parish structure and who you need to be making contact with, and then persistence. Not every one of these ideas are going to be a home run. Actually, many of the times we're going to strike out, but how do you learn from those and keep on keeping on? So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Josh, and thank you.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Many of your points, I think, reflect what Annie spoke about and what I'm going to speak about. So thank you for your sharing there. Can everyone see my slide? Great.
Yes.
So it's just really good to be with you today, and to kind of share a couple of insights with you. I really want to share 3 insights with you about what I've kind of picked up mobilizing the Diocese of Lexington around Care for Creation. My hope is that these insights will be able to help you in your approach to diocesan-wide events like the pilgrimage or for a larger strategy, Laudato Si strategy. The same principles will apply. Before I jump into those insights, though, I would like to share a little bit about our diocese and the approach we took, the steps we took, Currently, our diocese is the only diocese that has made a Laudato Si action plan that includes a plan from every one of all 59 of our parishes, schools, and all of our ministries. So we undertook a process that for about 6 months that went from having one team at one parish, Care for Creation team, one Care for Creation team in one parish, to all of our parishes developing teams and plans. So I want to walk you through that a little bit so that my insights kind of have a grounding point. All right. Let's see here. So our plan had really two major components. It was our diocesan plan had the parish plans from every one of our parishes and our schools, as well as some diocesan-wide commitments, net zero and other things. I'm going to focus on the process of mobilizing our diocese. In about 6 months, that has continued. All right. So in 2024, at Pentecost, that was May 19th, all of our parishes received a letter from our bishop that introduced a planning process we were going to undertake. Prior to this happening, I met with all of our ministers in deanery meetings and in one-on-one meetings to outline exactly how the process was going to go and to answer any questions. So at Pentecost, when this letter went out from Bishop John Stowe, all of our ministers already knew what was coming and they were ready for it. Following that letter, their first step was that each of our parishes was asked to enroll into the Laudato Si action platform and then to assemble a team. Teams were made up of at least 2 people and the pastor. What we found is that many of our teams actually were much bigger. Then those teams were asked to complete an assessment that we made as a diocese and to host a listening session. This assessment and listening session was interested in understanding how the parish is already practicing the goals of Laudato Si, the 7 goals, and how they could better practice. And finally, why Laudato Si was essential to them as people of faith. Then on October 4th, 2024, all of our pastors submitted a plan for their parishes that included Laudato Si statement saying why Care for Creation was essential to them as a community of faith, that made smart commitments based on the 7 goals of Laudato Si, so that's specific, measurable, achievable, related to the goals of Laudato Si and time-bound, and appointed a coordinator for each parish to oversee the implementation of the plan, and each year during the season of creation to evaluate the plan's work and update it. January 1, 2025, we published our diocesan plan, which included the plans from every one of our parishes. And we began monthly meetings for those parish coordinators. Those continue and will continue for the foreseeable future. Those meetings are a time for all of our parish coordinators, Laudato Si coordinators, to share about their progress, to share insights, to collaborate with one another, and to look to the future together. We were able to offer grants to about a third of our parishes to help kickstart their plans, although many of our parishes were not able to. These was really focused on our Appalachian parishes. And now, as we head towards the season of creation, all of our parishes are asked to celebrate the season of creation through joining a diocesan pilgrimage for a Mass on the mountaintop, and for each parish to have an event scheduled themselves to celebrate what they've accomplished in terms of their goals, and to look to 2026 and add new commitments to their Laudato Si plan. So now that's kind of that was the road we took and that we're on right now. We meet monthly and we continue to build this out. Now I want to share 3 insights that applied for me and continue to be relevant and also can apply to to whatever path you're on, whether it's for a particular event, this pilgrimage, or a wider Laudato Si movement. Here are the 3 insights. Know your diocese, know your why, and know your task. Know your diocese. We've talked about org charts and mapping. You got it. It really boils down to this. When you're looking at your diocese, you have to answer a couple of questions or approach three questions. Who do you need to talk to understand the challenges that your diocese faces and its priorities? Second question, who do you need to work with to plot out a Laudato Si plan that meets those challenges and furthers those priorities? And then finally, what offices or people do you need to collaborate with to have a successful plan? So if you're looking at your chart or your org chart or your diocese, here are some of the people that we work with. You're trying to figure out what are the main challenges that our diocese is taking on right now. And then what are the priorities that are being taken on concretely? And then how can a plan fit within that? Address those challenges and further those priorities. You also want to know when you're talking about parishes, what are the makeup? You're also understanding the challenges, the strengths, the cultural realities, the capacity as you discern your path forward. So again, what are the challenges and what are the priorities, whether you're talking about a diocese or a parish, and who do I need to talk to develop a plan that's going to meet that? And then maybe you make a list of people that you should have coffee with, even if you work in the diocese or you're maybe outside the diocese. So know your diocese. The second insight that I think is just incredibly important, and it continues to be relevant, is know your why. So our why, our faith-filled reason for caring for creation, is the only thing strong enough to stand up to the resistance, the challenge, the conflict, the political polarization that exists. We, as leaders, must communicate our why. And we're invited to communicate it over and over again. So the way it often happens to me is people will say, I have to say to folks very clearly that we are not doing care for creation because of a partisan reason. We are not in it because of a political party, and we don't get to opt out of it because of a political party. We are all in because of our faith. And this message, our why, is something that we continually communicate over and over and over again in everything we do. Other ways I might put it is the earth and everything in it belongs to God. Psalms 24. God alone has absolute ownership of the earth and its resources, according to the Laudato Si and Pope Francis. Our job description is simple: till and keep, cultivate for the common good, and protect. Pope Francis writes in Laudato Si that living our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork is an essential part of a life of virtue. It is not an optional or secondary aspect of Christian experience. It is my vocation, your vocation, the church's vocation, to protect God's creation. And Pope Leo says, now do it concretely. So we know our why. This will be ultimately the engine behind whatever strategy we have, and separates us from sometimes the others that are in the field or against what we're doing. Know your why and communicate it. And then finally, know your task. We are inviting people into something concrete, something real and tangible, because a vocation is about identity and mission. It's how we structure our parish. It's essential to Christian life. It's about how we structure our time. It is about real and concrete action. So we're inviting people to a concrete task, not necessarily an ideological group of gathering of just people who think the same way, but rather people who want to exercise and empower that vocation to till, keep, and protect God's creation in practical ways. It's worth mentioning that in all the tasks we do, we're looking to build capacity for leadership and build capacity for action. Leaders make other leaders. Our job, as said before, is to build up leadership at every level of our diocese and to build upon action. So small action leads to larger action. Small hinges open big doors. I'll end with a story here. So a pastor came up to me when we were starting with our plan last year. And he said, Josh, I can't do this. We don't have the capacity. We can't come up with a plan. I said, do you preach? We can preach on Laudato Si. Do you have a prayer of the faithful at Mass? We can have an intention for creation. Imagine if our whole diocese prayed for creation, we would be transformed. Do you have coffee? We can move to fair trade or reusable filters. LED bulbs? We could transition to that. Overnight, we could buy cleaning products that were environmentally friendly. What about the Feast of St. Francis? We can bless animals. We can bless the garden. The truth is here, we already have the capacity to do something, and that something can lead to really big plans as a diocese. I've seen it firsthand. We did it. We did overnight. We decided, or over a small period of time, we decided we were going to do something, even small if we could, and I'm watching it transform our diocese. So we just remember that we have to know our diocese, know our why, and know our task. And finally, if you have any questions about as a diocese, or if you're interested in those resources we used, in over 6 months, we also did formation resources and all types of resources. You can go ahead and take a picture of this on your phone, and it'll take you right to our website as a diocese, and you can look at all of our documents. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate all the work you're doing. Now, it's really my pleasure to pass the mic to someone who's doing incredible work. So, Kat Dole, I'll pass it over to you, and thank you.
Okay, I'll bring it home for everybody today. I am Kat Doyle with the Archdiocese of Atlanta, and I'll start by saying we've been doing this a long time. We were, as far as we know, we were the first to publish a Laudato Si action plan. And so at the diocesan level, we're coming up on a 10-year anniversary in November of doing this work. So if it sounds like we're out there ahead of everything, I'm going to try to make everything I talk about applicable to everybody on this call. So I don't have slides. Instead, what I'm going to ask you to do as I talk about these things and paint these pictures, I want you to imagine what it would look like in your parish, in your diocese, in your religious order, in your nonprofit organization. So as I talk about these things, really try to picture what it would look like if you were doing this. And the first thing I want to really add on, as you heard in the very beginning, is we are always looking to build and strengthen partnerships and relationships, whether it's in a ministry, with a nonprofit organization, an educational institution, a business. And I want you to start by thinking outside your comfort zone, outside the box, if you will. Think of your other than normal go-to ways of doing things, and think of unexpected and surprising partnerships. Because I'm talking about a Laudato Si pilgrimage of hope for creation that takes place outside the parish, or maybe even outside the diocesan walls, the normal way you would think of a pilgrimage within the Catholic community. So we've been working really hard here in the Archdiocese of Atlanta in going beyond our parishes and beyond our diocese to get out into the community where we really are living integral ecology and that interconnectedness. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, I'm just going to tell you about a couple of the pilgrimages we're doing. In September, we have an eco-spirituality retreat. It's being held at the monastery in Georgia. But we're starting over at the Green Burial Site at the open air chapel. And we have Native American music that's going to be taking place as you look out over the North Georgia mountains. So we'll have our opening mass, but the pilgrimage is going to take place inside of our retreat. As people walk or pilgrimage from the Green Burial Site over to the monastery grounds, we have a thoughtful way of looking around at their surroundings as they pilgrimage. So they'll get a little card that allows them to do more than just walk back or walk across the street, but to go through a pilgrimage experience. We have 0 Catholic colleges in the state of Georgia. So we've reached out to all of our campus ministries And we've asked our students to design a pilgrimage and then lead it. So the University of Georgia Catholic Center raised their hand and said, we'll put it together. And they've reached out to all of our other major universities and some of the smaller ones and gotten everybody in on this. So we're leaving it to them. This whole idea of, I think at the beginning, the first presentation you heard, what can I give to somebody else to do? We're giving this, we are giving ownership of the pilgrimage to our college age youth. We're also having our Green Mass, which will be held on the Feast of St. Francis, Saturday, October 4th. And in that Green Mass, we actually have a pilgrimage of remembrance where we have Indigenous dancers who are going to lead in through spoken word, song, music, dance, and tell the story of creation. So we're looking back and remembering. And this particular thing, it's a very small parish in the North Georgia mountains that doesn't have room for everybody to come. So we're going to be live streaming it. And one of the things that we're doing is we are sending out invitations, personal invitations to every youth group, every young adult group, and any ministry that any of us are a part of, and personally inviting them to have watch parties and to come and do a tailgate, do a potluck, do something as part of this, but have a watch party and virtually be a part of this pilgrimage of remembrance. The LCWR is doing a sidewalk pilgrimage in downtown Atlanta in August. We have a group of parishes that are going to be visiting each other's gardens as well as the local community garden. We also, if we thought really big, we've also taken it really small. We have put together a St. Kateri Habitat Challenge pilgrimage, where we're challenging as many individuals and families to create their own St. Kateri habitat. And once they're sitting within that habitat, to then go through this individual pilgrimage, looking at nature around them. And we've based some of that on the publication Finding God in a Leaf. And then the last thing is an advocacy pilgrimage. We've brought together our advocacy group and those groups that they work with and said, let's take a look at what actions we've been working on, the pilgrimage of how we got from the action to the success. So as you can see, we're going outside of our parish walls. We're going outside of the boundaries of how you might do a normal type of pilgrimage. And I know I only have a couple minutes, so I'm going to cram a whole bunch in here. I want you guys to think about this. Look at all your possible networks, not just your parishes and schools, but what about your Catholic organizations? How can you get into a collaboration with St. Vincent de Paul, Catholic Charities, Catholic businesses, Catholic women, the Knights of Columbus, Knights of Peter Claver? What about Laudato Si partnerships you have with Interfaith Power and Light, with the EPA, Ag Extension? What about educational Catholic centers and partnerships? We have Emory University. We have a whole bunch of different seminaries and colleges that have Masters of Divinity, and we're pulling them in and asking them, what kind of pilgrimage can we do with you? Also, religious orders like the monastery. Look at interesting sites to do this on, not just your parish and school gardens, but look at places like food pantries, urban farms, even cemeteries like what we're doing, botanical gardens, forests, parks. Go somewhere unexpected. When we said people will come for the relationship, they'll also come for the site experience. Leverage other ministry collaborations that you have. Look not just at your green team or your creation care team. Look at your prayer groups. Look at your men's group, your preschool, your mother's morning out group. Bring in those people that may not have even ever been invited or ever thought about this. But for most people, caring for creation is something that they do have a vested interest in. When it comes to communicating all of this, one of the big things to think about is leverage everybody's networks. Don't just depend on your own network. Leverage every network of every partner that you're working with. We leverage the master gardeners. We leverage green businesses. Also look at the socials. The young people are there, but we personally invite all of our 40 parishes that have super active creation care teams, each one of their team members to communicate out on the media or the way that they would communicate with their peers. We also always include and connect to Catholic social teaching, always, because this is our opportunity to make sure that people are introduced not just to Laudato Si and Care for Creation, but the entirety of Catholic social teaching. Everything we do is meant to be continuing in relationship and in actions, and we always have an invitation to integrate the integral ecology into the life of the church. We always have a what's next. So every time we gather people together in one of these, we have something that we announce that they can attend afterwards. So this is supposed to be a step along the journey. It itself is a pilgrimage, but we ask them to join this lifelong pilgrimage of caring for creation. There you go. I think I got it all in. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you so much, Kat. And I know as we have people dropping off because we're on time, just a little bit of announcements that I dropped in the chat is with a bunch of different things that are happening currently. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen as well so we can look at them. And thank you, our amazing presenters, for all the work. And we'll share out the recording of this as well. So individuals, if you want to listen back and look at different ideas as well as you're getting started. And I have a great immense of gratitude for everyone who is able to speak on this webinar today. So some of our announcements is please register your pilgrimage. We have 6 weeks until Season of Creation. The goal is 100 pilgrimages by the end. And we're currently at 56 pilgrimages. So above 50%, we're almost there and we have 6 weeks. So we encourage you to please register them. If you would like to also be able to connect with other leaders, we have a form. We are hosting a few different events. First, we have a coffee hour chat, August 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is just a little bit, if you kind of what Kat was talking about, and Josh and Catherine, all these ideas as well, and even Annie, of all these ideas, if you just want to chat a little bit about the ideas you have for pilgrimage, what more, how can I further engage the Catholic community? So this is a really open format time just to learn from each other and also just discuss and brainstorm some ideas. We also have a youth launch call on August 13th. I need the link to join, and it's at 5 p.m., I believe, Pacific time. And we also have our Hispanic engagement call, which is August 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is going to be completely in Spanish as well. So if you know any Spanish speakers that you would like to invite into further building your pilgrimages, we will also be having that call also. But once again, that's all I have to share as far as announcements. We thank you guys all for joining the webinar. We thank everyone who was able to join, and we will be sending out the recording and further information. But yes, thank you so much.